day once again to everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Fivo Ulubomi, and I'm a customer excellence strategist here at Reliance Infosystem, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. We are glad to have you join us for this important conversation on balancing innovation and risks in the age of AI threats. And as AI continues to transform how organizations operate, it also introduces new and evolving security risks. And today's session is designed to help us better understand and respond to that reality. And before we proceed, I would like to give a few housekeeping notes. And the first is that this presentation is being recorded, and this is because we'll send you the recording afterwards so that you can have access to it. Second is that all attendees have been muted to ensure a smooth experience for everyone. And then the third one is that I would like to hear from you. So please feel free to drop your questions, your comments, your contribution throughout the session. We have experts on the course that will attend to your questions at any time. Now we have a special announcement before we move into this agenda. I'd like to share a special opportunity for participants who are joining this session. As part of today's webinar, Reliance Infosystem will be offering 3 complimentary slots for cybersecurity awareness training and 2 complimentary slots for an identity management audit to selected participants. And to qualify, we just encourage you to stay active, stay engaged throughout the session. Selection will be based on participation on our polls that will be dropping. We also have a panelist section, engagement during the webinar, comments during the interaction section, and the question and answer section. So please be ensured to stay engaged actively. You might just be one of our selected participants. Now, before we move on, I would like to briefly walk us through the agenda for today's session. First, we'll begin by exploring the benefits of AI to innovation and how organizations are leveraging AI to drive efficiency, creativity, and business growth. Next, we'll discuss the risk involved in using AI, particularly the emerging threats and challenges that organizations need to be aware of. And then we'll highlight the major security areas organizations should pay close attention to in order to strengthen protection in an increasingly AI-driven environment. And then finally, we are going to look at practical strategies to balancing innovation and risks, how we can help organizations embrace AI confidently while also maintaining strong security and governance. And then lastly, we'll move to the panelist section, which will also have the question and answer session, where our panels of experts will address questions and share additional insights. Before we proceed to balancing innovation, I would like to give a brief overview of Reliance Infosystem, what we do, and who we are at Reliance Infosystem. Reliance is a leading digital transformation company with a strong global presence across America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. And over the years, we have consistently remained at the forefront of technology innovation. We help organizations navigate digital transformation journeys, and we have operations spanning across 15 locations globally. And we specialize in enabling businesses through innovative IT solutions, cybersecurity, cloud technologies, and modern workplace solutions that drive efficiency and growth. And our commitment over the years has earned us several recognition, including multiple Microsoft Partner of the Year awards over the years, alongside other recognitions in business transformation and technology innovation. At Reliance Infosystem, we do not just support businesses, we empower them to thrive and to grow in today's world. Now, without further ado, we are going to get into balancing innovation and risks in the age of AI threats. And it is my pleasure to hand over to our first speaker, Anna Kamini, who will take us through the foundation of today's discussion. Anna is a cybersecurity engineer at Reliance Infosystem. She brings deep expertise in enterprise infrastructure, cybersecurity architecture, and modern security transformation. And she'll be setting the foundation for today's discussion on AI threats and security strategy. Please join me in welcoming Anna. Over to you, Anna.
Hello, Favor. Please confirm that I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Good day, everyone. I hope we're all having a good day so far. And welcome to our webinar today. I hope it will be packed with knowledge and you'll get to interact with it and to get so much information from it that will be beneficial to yourselves and to your organization. And before I actually start, just as Favor had mentioned, please, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and we'll have a team of experts who will be answering the questions at the end of this session. So we'll have a Q&A session at the end. And also we'll be sending out polls for you to engage with, for you to evaluate where you are with the organization and all that. So it can help you have a clearer picture of that. As well, we'll be having a panel session. So I'm really looking forward to that, where we'll get to answer questions and we'll have our experts tell us more about that. And without further ado, we will just dive straight into the topic of the day, which is on balancing AI innovation and risk. And now when we talk about AI, it's not something that we look at as a futuristic concept. Initially, we looked at it as something that would happen in the future from movies we watched and all that. But now it's actually reshaping the industries that we work in and we are in. And it's moved beyond just having simple automation where we have our machines doing repetitive tasks into a phase where we are using the AI systems to even make decisions. So it's helping us to have it. AI has enabled predictive capabilities where we're able to anticipate customer behavior. We're able to detect fraud before it happens, and we're able to optimize our operations in real time. So this has helped us bring enormous value in terms of how we do our businesses efficiently, in terms of speed and how fast and how we do the innovation aspect of it. However, this has also increased the risk exposure that we have. So we have the AI systems that we integrate within our environments being deeply embedded in our critical processes, right? But this has also become a very attractive target for the cyber threats. So we now have to worry about things such as data poisoning. We have to worry about the privacy concerns of how are we sharing our data and how and what type of data is being shared. And also, are we relying too much on this AI to make the decisions for us, which can further introduce new vulnerabilities. And so today we are going to look at a way where we can understand the benefits that we gain from AI and having and adopting it in our innovation goals, but also understanding the risks that they pose for us. And so some of the ways that AI is reshaping the industry that as we have today is the speed at which we are able to handle tasks. We are able to handle this task at a speed and scale that we simply can't match as humans because we were getting tired. We get tired while doing the repetitive tasks. However, now tasks that used to take us hours or days are being completed in minutes, which allows us to even allocate fewer resources or even focus on a higher value work instead of routine processes. As well as that, we are seeing that AI can process massive volumes of data in real time. So we're able to identify patterns very fast. We're able to get insights very fast, which will take us long and will be difficult for us humans to detect. And that has enabled us to make faster decisions and to even make them more informed with more data in our hands. As well as that, our customers now expect that we will deliver personalized and responsive services. So this can look like having a chatbot in our systems that can provide instant support, to having recommendation systems that can tailor the products that we have to an individual's preference. And now this is not just on our end alone, even our customers expect that we will give them faster, smarter, and more relevant interactions. Moreover, we now don't have to worry about doing the repetitive tasks. We found a way to automate these tasks, such as if we were worried about how we enter our data, how we schedule our calls, basic troubleshooting. We're now automating this using AI, which not only just reduces the aspect of human error, but also helps us to free up our resources for more creative and strategic problem solving. So overall, what I can say is that the promise of AI is not just about doing things faster. It's also helping us to work smarter, make better decisions, and even create more value across our organizations. And with this in mind, what are some of the risks that we have to worry about? What does the AI threat landscape pose in terms of risk? And so now we are seeing that the AI-powered cyber attacks are becoming even more sophisticated. Because initially we were looking at, for instance, if we're looking at a phishing email, what we used to look at is, are we seeing any spelling mistakes? Do we have grammatical errors? However, now this has been personalized at scale, and the AI can give and output a very well grammatically formatted phishing email that we are not able to identify. As well, imagine an occasion where you get a video call, and it's someone, maybe it's your manager or your CEO, who's authorizing a transaction for you to do. And the voice sounds very real. The expressions that they are showing are very real as well. And even how they articulate the message is how the CEO sounds, but actually it is AI formatted. And this is what we call deepfake, which mimics the voice and audio of the person. And this is making it a lot harder to detect such scams. As well, we are looking at how secure is our data. So we know that AI systems depend on huge amounts of data, and if that data isn't handled properly, sometimes it can be easily exposed or misused. And sometimes we can have information being leaked without us knowing. Especially when we are using it, we give it information we want to get output really fast, and we can forget about that. Another growing concern is the attacks on the AI models themselves. Just because they are AI systems does not mean that they are not susceptible to attacks. No, hackers are able to manipulate inputs or even tamper with the training data to make the AI systems give wrong or misleading results. So it's not just about protecting the systems anymore. We have to think about protecting how the AI itself thinks and how it learns and what output it gives to us. We're also looking at insider risks. So this is how we might unintentionally share sensitive information with the AI tool. As I mentioned before, I have a task, I want to complete it as fast as possible, and I paste everything about it to the AI system to help me understand it better. So this is a way we are feeding it information that could be misused, or if someone had access to this system, they could get our data and even be able to use it for however they want to. And so overall, the big picture is this, that yes, AI is making things more efficient for us, but it's also making the threats more sophisticated, which means that we need to start being smart and proactive in how we understand and manage these risks. And now this brings us to what are some of the main areas today in this session that we should look out for, we should keep an eye out for when it comes to risk and innovation. So the first area, as I mentioned, is on our data security and privacy. We understand that AI runs on data, right? And often it's very large volumes of data. And if we do not find a way to properly protect our data, it's so easy for it to be exposed, to be leaked, or even misused. So a way for us to watch out for this is to ensure that we have strong data governance and security controls. We place them and everyone understands them so they know what type of data they are interacting with, how they should process, and who should have access to this specific data. And on matters access, we also do not allow everyone to have access to the AI system or the data behind it. So as an organization, we need to ensure that we implement the right access management so that only the right people have access to these systems and can access these critical resources with proper authentication, which looks like authenticating every step of the way, and even implementing least privilege principle, which I would say this is where you give someone access to only what they need, give them permissions to only what they need to access. So if it's someone in the HR department, they do not need to have access to data from the finance team, for instance, unless it's the processing of payrolls and such things. So you assign only the needed permissions for that. And when it comes to the model itself, it's important for us to ensure that the models we have and what we're giving, they are not being tampered with. So if a model is manipulated, whether it is maybe the data that it's using to train itself. So we know that AI is continuously learning, and so it has to be trained with the type of input we give, or even someone being able to prompt it, knowing how to ask it to do something that should be restricted or should not be allowed. So we should make sure that we understand and we have this model integrity so that we do not provide inaccurate or harmful outcomes. And so this trust in AI depends on us maintaining its integrity. Another key area is on compliance and regulation. So we've seen that AI adoption is growing. Even in this year alone, we've seen so much growth in AI. And so that's the same case. We should expect the regulatory expectations to keep growing. And this means that we must ensure that we are always looking out for the legal and ethical requirements around our data usage, around the transparency, around how accountable we are when it comes to using this AI system. And we should also understand that non-compliance will lead to fines. It can also lead to reputational damage, because if our data is breached from someone prompting the AI system, then we lose trust of our customers as well. And finally, we don't act as a vacuum. We do not operate as a person living on an island. We interact with third-party tools. And so as much as we have these third-party AI tools, we also need to understand they come with their own risk. And so we may not fully control how these tools are able to handle our data, but it is important for us to be able to assess carefully and understand what is it that we are trying to integrate within our environment. So here it's simple. So the AI risk spans across our data, our access systems, and even our external partners. And now a poll will be dropping for us to highlight what areas within our organizations that we need to look out for when it comes to risk and compliance. And so this gives us a chance to know which risk areas have we already adopted, and also which ones are we looking forward to adopting. All right. Now we get, I think at this point, we all have an understanding of how AI is helping us in our innovation, and also an understanding of the risk that it poses. But then how can we strike a balance? Is there a way that we can actually balance moving fast with AI while also staying secure? And this comes down to some few principles that we're going to be sharing with you today. First is adopting a zero trust mindset. So this means we don't automatically trust any user, any device, or any system, whether it's inside or outside the organization. That means that every access request is verified continuously. So it's not just a one-time access or autonomous access. We continuously verify this access. And so this will help us to reduce risk of unauthorized access. And if by any chance an attacker is able to gain access to one part of the network or one part of the system, they will have, it will limit how far they go, because now they have to worry about, how do I authenticate into the next system? How do I authenticate to do the next process that I need to take? And so this is why we need to adopt a zero trust mindset. And having an understanding that the AI system itself that we are integrating, is it a chatbot that we are trying to use? However, we are looking at embedding AI in our task, does not operate in a vacuum. By this, I mean, it's not just left to rule itself, that we understand, okay, it's an AI system, it can just go wild. No, we need to have clear policies around how this data is being used, which comes in the form of implementing the strong governance policies. So who has access to these AI tools? How is the data being used? What type of data is being used to train? And what's considered acceptable use? How is the user allowed to use it? And is there a way that they can try or a prompt or just use the system that is not allowed? And as much as this governance will help us to have a clear structure, it also helps us to ensure we have consistency, we have accountability, and we are also aligned, especially with the business goals that we are trying to achieve, and also with the regulatory expectations that come with having AI systems. And third, we have to look at making sure that we continuously monitor and audit our systems. So what solution are we using? How are we embedding AI in it? Are we continuously monitoring how the model is performing, how the data is being used, what type of data is being implemented? Are we checking if there's any unusual activity? And for us to know if there's unusual activity, we need to have studied it so well to understand what is usual and what is allowed, so we can be able to detect if something out of the norm happens. And these audits will help us to catch issues very early before they actually become major projects. And I think my favorite principle so far is that as much as we understand that AI is advanced, we still have a very critical role to play. We cannot downplay the element of the human in the loop decision making. And so this means that, yes, we use the system, we get the data, we draw our patterns from it, we get insights from it, but when it comes to making the decision, we need to apply the experience we have. We need to apply the expertise that we've gained over the years, what we know. We need to validate the outputs. We need to ensure that we actually know what the AI system is giving us, because there have been times where the AI will give us data that is not factually correct, or it is hallucinating, or it's gone beyond what it is, or there are some errors that we can be able to detect. So that means that once, yes, we get the insights, we really put our effort in understanding them better. And finally, making sure that security is not an afterthought when it comes to AI development. So it should be built into the AI systems from the very beginning. That means considering risk during the design and implementing, and also during the development and deployment, even after we've sent it to production. That is, we are considering risk in every aspect, every step of the way that we are going in the development of the AI system. So it is very easy for us to identify them in the beginning. And also, I will give this for free. I don't know if you know this, but it's way, way cheaper to try and fix vulnerabilities and issues during the development stage than waiting for them to be fixed after the system is in production, because then it gets costlier, it gets more complicated, it's more complex, and could affect how we do our businesses. And yes, so overall, the goal is for us understanding all this is not to slow down the innovation goals we've set for ourselves, but it's to make sure that it's happening responsibly, securely, and with the right controls in place. And now we come to thinking about, we are the leaders, yes, and so we've understood all this. What is our role when it comes to understanding how we can balance this innovation with risk? Maybe you can also send it in the chat on how you think what your role is when it comes to this. And first, I'll say we need to set the tone by defining how much risk the organization is willing to take. So what this looks like is, yes, I understand we want to get from point A to point B. This is the goal we have. This is how we're going to use the AI system. However, for us to do this, we need to understand the risks involved. And so the risks involved, like making sure we know this could happen, and then we say, now we know all the risks, everything that could go wrong. How can we manage this? Do we accept it and say we're willing to take it in case it happens, in case we face a threat? Or do we say, let's transfer this to someone else who can help us to handle this? Or do we say, no, let's mitigate it. Let's set controls to make sure this never actually happens. And this is how we set the tone, as well as ensuring that everyone understands that security is a shared responsibility. And this is how we promote a strong security culture, making sure that everyone who we're working with within our organization understands that they have a role to play when it comes to security. It's not just an IT team issue. It's not just a security team issue, or it's not just a management issue. So everyone has a role to play. And we as leaders need to invest in how we can create proper AI governance frameworks. Yes, there are the standard ones and the regulatory ones that will continue being grown, but within our organization, do we have clear rules? Do we know what is considered acceptable for our AI systems or for our data? And do we have proper oversight of how this AI system is working and who is developing it? How is it being used? So this will help us, and this is a major role we have to play. And importantly, I think in every department, in every type of leadership, we must bring our teams together. That means aligning every cross-functional team we have to make sure that we all understand our role when it comes to our innovation goals, and even in the AI development and in the security aspect of it. So all our initiatives are both effective and secure. So at the end of the day, leadership does not just ensure innovation moves forward alone. We make sure that we move forward, yes, but in a controlled and responsible way. And so some of the practices that we can implement to ensure that in our day-to-day controls, to make it more practical for us, as we've mentioned, is having clear AI usage policies for all our employees, for our users, so we all understand what is safe and what is acceptable when it comes to using these AI tools. We also need to focus on understanding the data that we handle within our organization. And once we understand it, we can classify it better. So knowing what data is sensitive and how can we make sure that it's properly secured, what data is allowed to be shared with the AI system. And so this is how we ensure that we can focus on protection of our data by first understanding it and training it, as well as sessions such as where we have a regular security awareness training. So it's very key because people need to understand and to be able to recognize these risks. So if we have an awareness training, we're able to tell the people that we interact with, be it our employees, that, okay, these are the threats that are there. This is how data should be handled. If you see this, you know that this is a sign of a risk. And so we're able to understand and be on the lookout and prevent issues that could be avoided or can happen if people are not really aware of what to look out for. As we mentioned before, it's very important and critical for us to conduct risk assessments on the AI systems before deployment. This is what we mentioned, having secure in design architecture, where you're looking at from the moment we are designing these systems, from the moment we are actually planning, we're thinking about how it's supposed to be implemented. We already think about security and are trying to look for ways that we can implement it from that moment. And even after we've now created the solution, before we deploy it, we do an overall risk assessment to understand any potential impacts and any vulnerabilities that could come up front. And finally, we can never overlook vendor risk management, which is the third-party tools that we're integrating with. Have we understood them? Is there a way, is there a standard that we've set that we can see and see, okay, these are the security and compliance standards we need our third-party tools to meet. This is the type of data, this is what we present and all that. So overall, I would say when it comes to the practical strategies, it's not just one size fits all. It combines policy. We have to look at the technology part of it in the AI system and also the people to reduce the risk. And so we'll be dropping a poll as well in this session to just understand some of the practical strategies that we would be integrating within the organization. So what strategy has your organization implemented so far to manage these AI risks? I believe at this point, we have an understanding of what it means to have AI in our innovation and what risks are involved and what strategies we can implement. But then how do we approach and how do we take this and look at the future brightly? First, we need to understand that AI the landscape is only getting more complex, which means we can expect also the AI-driven threats to be more sophisticated. So making the attacks harder to detect and to respond to. So we need to understand that before we even continue. But that does not mean that we should be discouraged and think that, oh, now we do not want to implement these AI systems. No, we should also know that at the same time, we'll have regulations continually increasing. So we'll have more standardized way and frameworks to help us, to guide us in how we structure our policies, how we understand AI usage. And so this will mean that we need to be more accountable in how we use and secure AI, as well as also understanding that there will also be tools and ways to detect. So as the threats grow, we'll also have people finding ways to detect and mitigate these AI-driven threats as well. So that should come as a comfort for us. However, I think the main idea for us is that we cannot afford to just be reactive anymore. So we need to start being proactive as organizations. We need to find ways that we understand the risks, we anticipate these risks, we strengthen the controls that we have in place, and we also build security into the AI system from the start. And yes, AI, the future of AI is not just about innovating and finding new solutions. It's also about staying ahead of the risks that come with implementing it within our organization. And so I hope you've understood a lot and you've got a lot of knowledge from this. Now we're going into the session I mentioned before when it comes to the panel. So we're going to be hearing from our experts who have had a chance to just interact with AI and also look at it from the aspect of security. And before we actually get into that, please, if you have any questions, as I mentioned before, remember to drop them in the chat and we'll be sure to handle them. And without further ado, let me introduce us to our panelists for the day. I hope you're excited. And so we're going to be having Sandra Uko, who is going to be our expert today on matters identity and access. So she's going to answer our questions when it comes to how do we integrate AI innovation and also looking at identity and access management. And we're also going to have Akin Sulire, who is going to be our governance and compliance expert. So he's going to tell us what frameworks do we need to look out for? How is there a way we can find a balance? So this is what we should expect from this session. And finally, but we're going to have Victor Bayedo, who's going to tell us matters of network. So when it comes to network, do we have ways we can protect our network? Are the controls we have in place secure? And so, yes, so please join me in welcoming our panelists for the day. Yeah, all right. So for the first question, I think we can just go straight ahead of it. We're going to answer questions. This is for you, Sandra. Nice to see you, by the way, you look really nice. And it's on matters identity and access management. So we're seeing AI agents scaling, but then how should identity as well evolve to securely manage the non-human identities that we have to interact with?
Hi, Anna. Thank you very much for asking such an important question, right? So I'll start by saying as AI agents scale, right, there's a need for identity to move from being just user-centric to becoming a workload-centric identity, such that we start asking ourselves questions around it's no longer just who is a user, who is using a certain thing, or why something is working. It is rather should be what is executing a process and why does that process even exist in the first place? And where is it running from? And how long should it be trusted? So we need to put in the verify all, like verify everything and trust nothing, which is zero trust, into every of the identity we're going to be adopting and using for AI processes. And also there's a need to recognize and manage AI agents as an independent first-class human non-identity, I would say non-human identity, right? So the same way you give privileges to users that have access to certain workload, such should also be done with AI agents. You have to have like a privilege access management that you've set up for that. So you ensure that whoever it is that is using that particular identity is a known user and is not someone just coming from the outside to log in, right? So just the way people log in, each of those AI identities, they need to be very unique. They need to have temporary identity. It has to be clearly shown where it is running from and why that particular operation is running, like I mentioned earlier. So the use of permanent passwords should be discouraged, right? We shouldn't even think of using all of those. We should have a process whereby for every authentication, anytime we need to get access to a certain system, there has to be like a level of authentication such that you can verify what is going to be doing this process and who should be doing this process. I'll give an instance. Let's look at the health sector, right? Where you have people who work in the finance that deal basically with payroll, and you have people that deal with health record for patients and all of that. So if you have an AI system that is meant to run for the payroll system, for the finance unit, right, it should be restricted to data that has just minimal use to payroll, right? You don't need to extend such privileges to the health record of patients because that is a breach of information and data. So it is very key. And also access must be tightly scoped. So when I mean tightly scoped, you have to state a purpose why you're doing a certain thing. It has to be purpose bound. You need to deny all by default. So deny by default principle is very important. And always verify, continuously verify everything you do. We cannot overemphasize. Apply zero trust principle to execute anything you want to do at any point in time. Don't just say because the security is on the network, then you're good to go. You need to apply zero trust principle, very key. Then just to wrap up, finally, I would say that there's a need for a strong data lifecycle governance